Gimana sampai mana tadi Mbak Erza? Anakku nangis soalnya.
Nggak apa-apa.
Seminggu. Iya, itu ini sih training event-nya sama kayak trainingnya itu kadang nggak tentu sih harinya. Jadi kadang seminggu 3 kali, seminggu 4 kali kayak gitu.
Oh, banyak juga ya seminggu 4 kali.
Soalnya semua masih online sih ya. Waktu itu Mbak Erza 2019 ya pulang.
2000 mulainya atau apa ya?
Mulai balik ke Indonesia itu 2020.
Oh, awal 2021. Jadi aku Viva-nya tuh Desember, terus awal Januari aku balik. Ini pas lah, mepet.
Nanti tanya-tanya deh.
Siap. Ini kayaknya masih ada 3 orang yang belum ya. Nunggu aja mungkin ya.
Ya, boleh. 9 orang 8.
Selamat datang Bapak Ibu semuanya. Ada Ibu Kartini, Ibu Nazrina, Pak Faisal, Ibu Ayu. Oh, ada Pak Rido juga.
Selamat sore Ibu Erza.
Selamat. Sehat-sehat semua insya Allah mudah-mudahan.
Alhamdulillah.
Ini sepertinya kita masih ada 1-2 orang yang belum. Jadi mungkin saya tunggu dulu ada Ibu Lucy dan Ibu Siti Nurbayani. Nanti kalau sudah lengkap, baru mungkin kita mulai sesinya.
Selamat sore Ibu Erza, Kilian.
Selamat sore Ibu.
Saya nggak pakai virtual background karena saya lihat juga seperti Mbak Kartini itu saya lebih buruk maksudnya belakangnya itu jadi blur dan muka saya cuma kelihatan kacamatanya gitu. Jadi saya ambil pilihan nggak pakai background. Nggak apa-apa ya?
Nggak apa-apa Ibu, siap.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih.
Ya, silakan. Ya, untuk membahas masalah ini kan peraturan ditanya. Bagaimana kalau kita bagi tugas? Jadi ada yang mencermati apa, gimana Prof? Jadi nggak semua mencermati semua gitu, karena takutnya ada yang miss gitu nanti. Ya, setuju. Tinggal lagi apakah bisa.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam Pak Rido.
Mau dimulai belum ya?
Ini masih ada 2 pembicara yang belum ada ya, Pak. Saya izin mungkin nunggu sampai 1:45 gitu. Habis itu nanti saya buka acaranya secara resmi.
Oh ya, mohon maaf misalnya ada rapat senat ini dari Unsur ini. Tapi saya lagi ada di Jayapura ini, jadi saya mohon mudah-mudahan lancar nih sinyalnya nih dari sini. Ya. Nanti share screen-nya dari host atau dari kita sendiri ya?
Untuk asisten panelnya kira-kira udah bisa, semua peserta bisa share ya? Udah bisa share screen kayaknya.
Kalau misalnya ada halangan nanti saya kirim ke asisten
panel 1.
Panel 1 ya?
Ya.
Oh ya.
Nah, tapi sepertinya sudah bisa share screen nih Pak.
Oh iya ya.
Berhubung ini sudah 1:45, mungkin saya izin aja untuk mulai sambil nanti menunggu 2 peserta yang belum datang. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 3rd and final parallel session of the conference. My name is Erza Kilian, and I will be acting as your moderator for today. So for this panel, the theme is social and political transformation, which I think is a very timely topic, given the circumstances that we are in currently right now. And looking at the list of speakers, we currently have 6 speakers at the moment, which I will be introducing shortly prior to their presentation. And looking at the topic as well, we have a wide range of topics here. We will be talking about disaster, political arms, migrant workers, and social capital as well. So I was hoping this is going to be a very fruitful discussion, seeing that the range of topics that we'll be discussing and the current state that we are in, how external shocks, how the pandemic has changed not only social relationships, but also political structures. So to ensure the smooth running of this session, allow me to provide some general rules, I guess. So each presenter will be given a maximum of 10 minutes time for presentation. So in total, we'll be hearing 6 presentations. So it will be around 60 minutes for the total duration of the presentation, followed by a question and answer session. Each speaker will be allocated a 5 minutes question and answer session. So a total of 30 minutes discussion. And as for the audience as well, since we are navigating the current landscape of virtual discussion, so I would really expect some cooperations in the form of ensuring that your microphone are all turned off when someone is speaking. And during the question and answer session, I would also hopefully suggest that the audience would be using the raise hand feature or utilizing the chat box. So since our first speaker, Lucy Asa Akhrani, I think is not yet on the room, I will be introducing our second speaker first. So our second speaker is Nazrina Zuryani from Universitas Udayana, who will be discussing about Risha, narrating housing replacement at post-disaster earthquake Lombok in 2018. So this paper will argue that Risha can be a part of the housing solution that is mitigated for any layers of society that can increase hope despite frustration. So without further ado, Nazrina Zuryani, the time is yours.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Moderator, Ibu Eska Kilian, ya, Ibu Eska Kilian. Thank you for having us, having me today. I was a little bit scared that I cannot open my PowerPoint. I don't know why, but I hope that my PowerPoint is already being shown in the. It's already, yeah? Okay, thank you. Try to give you the overview about why Risha is at my attention. This is the skripsi or the final skripsi or thesis of the bachelor degree student of mine from Lombok Island, who also the victim of the to Lombok Island, and we start to see how Risha beside other options after the victim of the earthquake was choosing either to leave the tents because there are many tents, or they go back. They went back to their house, which so moving on. Let me go. What's wrong with this? I cannot go for. Okay. So 2018 was a year of sorrow and earth flow. So we have to see how this year have to get the mitigation without what we call bamboo, because my disclaimer for this presentation is that I proposed in APSI conference in USU in Medan 2 years ago that we can explore more bamboo housing as the replacement of the touristic accommodation, which I gave 2 different settings. One is Rumah Kundun and another one is a villa made by my way of thinking that vernacular housing is has to be the host of the place where the vernacular housing itself comes from. Say for instance, Baruga. Baruga in Lombok Island has been the vernacular housing or vernacular construction since many years. And they do have the plantation of bamboo, from bamboo petung into different types and variety of bamboo. So for me, the outline of window opportunity for disaster management means, what I mean with this is, do we only give the bantuan, the support of the RISA, which made of the plate from the beton, what we call it, beton. I've forgotten the name of beton. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry if my presentation is a mix of Indonesian language and English language, because this mitigation process was giving me an insight that respond to the is somewhat is not properly done. I mean with this, into Lombok 2018 earthquake was really rushed. At the time, the Tuan Guru as the governor was still taking giving the opportunity for giving the opportunity to rebuild the ruin house and building to the PUPR. So RISA, Rumah Insan Sederhana Sehat, is built with without a little bit of concern into vernacular housing. So I'm going to ending my disclaimer that I'm not a urban or rural planner. I'm not the person who is expert in the building or architecture. The choices of RISA or RIPKA. Well, I'm only concentrating in this Rumah Instan. The construction, the brick is already being template made of the PUPR. So they already a template that is like the Heston said, it is knocked down, it's light, it's easily constructed and modified so as to meet the standard national Indonesia and movable. While bamboo housing or barugat, this is maybe not a good word to say that are we ignorant. I think this is why I feel that sederhana is really not a good choice. However, the vernacular house that is being built via the local wisdom and how they can make into the 2 layers, it's really, I must say, under the of Lombok Island. This is already being late, however. So that's why I made the disclaimer. So in 2019-2020, the data collection from my student already finished. And he already being graduated for a bachelor degree. But I personally still think that the 2021 data collection could be done only to make us not ignorant, but to make us deliver a more option. Because the data collection that previously being done by my student, it was in the Bayan village where the clearing of land really create problem because they really like moving out people from their original housing into a new land. And then the Pokmas, kelompok masyarakat, then announced as being ready in Bayan area. But at the same time, frustration and hopes are managed, although promptly, but not deep and properly, because we can still see that how some of the housing that is ruined can be done in the good way. I mean, with the vernacular mix with the bricks that made of the rumah instan sederhana by PUPR. So the underway of the PUPR and housing replacement processes was on the way. But in 2021, almost 99% of housing is finished, the RISA. Demolizing of the building with the new building already being built with the fund collaboration. And then village office is still intact. Some mosque is being renovated, and school are built new or renovated. And in Bayan village, most of the building has been rehabilitated accordingly. And also this year, PUPR makes financial reporting that most of the housing and building renovation being administratively done by the end of this year. So that's already being done. I'm not going to give more comment on the administrative side, but what I'm going to discuss, as you can see that the brick here, if you can see my cursor, is really a template. So it's already being molded. And then in the middle is empty, so it's kosong, yeah. The cement form, and by layer that, and the persons or the military or ABRI who came down to help in 2019 was they are really supportive in many ways, but they built the Rumah Risa for mass housing without more concern from the PUPR and this military persona. Moving on to dampak gempa in wilayah NTB in the
time is up already. I've asked the assistant panel. No worries.
At the end, I would like to say that there are some problem with panel of Risa, the kunci sok or whatever. They managed to, the Pokmas especially, managed to make it happening without with the 50 million rupiah money that the government provide for each house. So the conclusion is, should we just narrating the local wisdom only into an exotic memory means that hearing like that or becoming an exotic of the touristic area, and why the Tuan Guru is newly appointed is not making this vernacular attraction. This is my conclusion. So this is really related to the way I think if Lombok can be still the tourist destination with the housing that is more to barugak or bamboo building. Thank you. I already finished my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibu Nazrina, for the engaging presentation. And if I can sum up, I think what the paper is trying to argue is that RISA can actually be used or utilized for a larger purpose, despite there are several problems within the process itself, which needs to be mitigated if RISA is going to be used as more than simply just as a housing. So we will discuss onto that later during the question and answer session. So thank you very much.
Yes.
For the next speaker, we have Mr. Rida Taqwa and Zulfikri Sulaiman from Universitas Sriwijaya, with a paper entitled Political Arms, Patronage Practices in the 2019 legislative election in South Sumatra. So basically this article will be discussing about the variations in the political patronage practices of incumbent and new legislative candidates in the 2019 elections and their future implications from the perspective of political sociology. So I assume here there's Mr. Rida is here already. So I think the time is yours, Mr. Rida.
Yeah, I am ready.
Okay.
Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me to present in Indonesian. Maaf, tadi saya kepingin menanggapi Bu Nasrina, sebenarnya saya tertarik tadi yang disampaikan karena sekaligus sebagai teman juga ada penelitian bimbingan saya S3 di Unsri itu meneliti tentang pergeseran dari rumah bambu, rumah kayu ke rumah batu dalam rangka untuk menghadapi bencana gempa di Bengkulu yang juga sangat besar gitu ya. Nah, rupanya orang sana itu kalau rumah bambu itu masih merasa kelas bawah gitu ya. Kalau rumah kayu meningkat, kalau rumah batu. Nah, ini ada konstruksi berpikir bahwa kalau rumah bambu itu masih orang miskin, kalau kayu kalau rumah batu itu kelas atas, jadi susah dirubahnya gitu. Padahal lebih aman kalau rumah bambu gitu ya. Nah, enggak apa-apa ya. Maaf ini saya salah sedikit karena saya tertarik ya dengan yang sampaikan oleh Nasir di sini. Itu di Ibu Dewi tadi mau coba screen atau dia saya yang screen ya? Dewi.
Bisa Pak atau perlu bantuan? Oh,
Bisa ya?
Ya, sudah muncul.
Oh, muncul ya. Saya khawatir tadi karena saya jauh. Saya kebetulan lagi di Jayapura ini. Saya khawatir sinyalnya kurang ini karena dekat dengan perbatasan PNJ ini. Ya, baik. Saya mencoba dulu. Ini ada istilah lokal tentang sedekah politik. Saya belum tahu pasti dengan istilahnya dalam bahasa Inggris, tapi sudah konsultasi dengan beberapa teman, kita pakai dulu ini. Ada yang menyebutnya giving gitu ya, sebagai pemberian, tapi bahasa lokalnya tetap menggunakan sedekah. Mungkin karena ini komunitasnya komunitas santri, sehingga bentuk-bentuk paternase gitu ya dalam prakteknya tetap mereka menyebutkan sebagai sedekah. Tentu tidak bersedia disebut sebagai suap atau politik uang. Nah, ini terutama terjadi pada tahun pemilu terakhir 2019. Nah, karena saya pernah riset dengan Edward Aspinall itu di Sumatera Selatan dan juga 10 provinsi yang lainnya, menemukan bahwa bentuk-bentuk patronase dari elit politik pada tingkat nasional, calon DPR pusat, itu lebih banyak pada public goods gitu ya, atau juga fasilitas yang diberikan kepada masyarakat desa atau pelayanan-pelayanan publik. Kalau di tingkat DPRD tingkat kabupaten itu rupanya lebih masif itu politik uang, karena masyarakat desa itu cenderung sudah lebih aktif untuk mencari kandidat atau mencari tim sukses gitu ya untuk mendapatkan dana gitu ya dari praktek demokrasi ini. Nah, ini jadi banyak variasi gitu ya. Pada era reformasi bentuk patronase ini sudah sangat bervariasi, baik untuk fasilitas maupun juga barang maupun juga amplop yang sifatnya secara langsung. Nah, saya juga melihat bahwa kalau patronase ini sangat makin masif, artinya setiap pemilih bisa mendapatkan lebih dari 2 amplop, bahkan sampai 3. Nah, saya ingin tahu kalau begitu bagaimana cara menentukan pilihannya. Nah, ternyata ini ada jawabannya di riset itu. Jadi tidak ada jaminan bahwa para politisi yang melakukan politik uang itu rata-rata habis. Dari sekitar 10 kandidat yang kami wawancara interview, itu rata-rata habis 1,5 M sampai 2,5 M. Tapi besar kecilnya tidak menjamin bahwa dia terpilih. Karena ternyata di akhir-akhir itu banyak pemilih yang keputusannya itu sangat sangat mendadak gitu ya, dan tidak terduga gitu ya. Nah, baik, itu mungkin saya jelaskan sedikit saja yang perlu karena waktunya cuma berapa lama Mbak? 10 menit ya?
10 menit, Pak. Iya.
Wah ya, 10 menit. Wah, inilah. Saya kalau pakai bahasa Inggris ini lama ini. Bahasa Indonesia aja sudah lama saya, apalagi kalau pakai bahasa Inggris.
Siap, Pak.
Baik. Jadi ini ada 2. Kami mewawancarai tidak hanya politisi baru, tapi juga politisi lama. Nah, sama-sama menggunakan uang, tapi politisi baru itu lebih berani. Mereka lebih berani untuk ini bertarung seperti orang berjudi gitu ya. Karena pejudi-pejudi baru biasanya itu ugal-ugalan gitu ya. Ternyata ini di politisi juga. Kalau politisi baru itu ugal-ugalan gitu ya, menghambur-hamburkan uang. Kalau politisi lama itu lebih hati-hati dia, walaupun dia sudah punya jabatan di DPRD gitu ya, atau sudah dapat proyek-proyek gitu. Nah, ada mungkin metodologi satu saja saya jelaskan di sini bahwa tim saya itu mencoba melakukan apa yang disebut dengan sedawing kandidat. Jadi mencoba untuk membuntuti gitu ya, kemana para kandidat itu pergi dan juga para suksesnya. Jadi tidak hanya wawancara tapi diikutinya gitu ya, kemana dia pergi, siapa yang diberikan, di mana diberikan dan seterusnya gitu ya. Sorry supaya hilang. Nah, baik. Nah, ini polanya patronase kalau dengan kandidat tetap mereka menggunakan tim sukses gitu ya, sukses 1. Tapi ada yang langsung ke pemilih, ada juga yang langsung dari tim sukses ke kepala keluarga. Nah, kalau unitnya pada kepala keluarga, disinilah yang biasanya berbagi suara. Jadi satu keluarga itu kalau dapat 3 amplop, biasanya mereka berbagi suara antara suami, istri, dan seterusnya. Nah, ini ada sesuatu yang menarik. Jadi ada mekanisme berbagi suara di antara mereka gitu ya. Tidak melihat besar tidaknya diberikan, tapi mereka berbagi suara gitu ya. Walaupun dalam satu keluarga masing-masing kepala keluarga itu mendapatkan amplop. Jadi bisa saja dalam satu keluarga ada yang dapat amplop 3 gitu ya, ada yang 2, ada yang membagi itu berdasarkan kepala keluarga. Jadi setiap keluarga dikasih. Nah, ini polanya patronase-nya itu IP-nya menurut informan yang saya coba identifikasi di sini yang berupanya materi gitu ya, terutama yang berkaitan dengan pakaian muslim itu banyak karena ini komunitas santri. Kalau yang lain-lain itu yang menjanjikan itu kesempatan kerja gitu ya. Jadi para anggota dewan itu berjanji akan memfasilitasi anak-anak muda, para pengangguran di desa apabila mereka bisa ini itu akan dibekerjakan minimal sebagai sekretaris kah atau sebagai tim ahli kah di DPRD atau juga job-job lain yang mungkin mereka dapatkan. Tapi itu cukup menjanjikan bagi mereka. Kalau yang berbentuk pelayanan macam-macam gitu ya. Ada yang memang membangunkan jalan, merehab jalan, ada yang merehab masjid dan seterusnya itu ya. Ini kalau begini kolektif. Nah, biasanya yang kolektif itu kurang menjanjikan sebagai lumbung suara. Kenapa? Karena sifatnya kolektif. Jadi tidak bisa kita pegangin. Satu desa itu sulit dipegang karena semua orang masuk sana. Jadi kalau pelayanan-pelayanan seperti itu biasanya tidak terlalu menjanjikan bisa mendulang suara. Makanya banyak politisi yang merasa kecewa. Jadi semuanya kecewa. baik yang menang pun maupun yang kalah. Cuma yang menang itu kecewanya suaranya belum sesuai dengan yang mereka harapkan sebelumnya. Sementara yang kalah ya jelas kata sudah kalah, sudah keluar uang juga tapi masih kalah gitu ya. Nah, saya tadi menyampaikan bahwa ada kecenderungan di mana pemilih ini sudah lebih aktif untuk mencari tim sukses. Beda mungkin zaman dulu tim sukses yang mencari-cari warga. Ini ada kecenderungan warga sudah mulai berani untuk mencari tim sukses gitu ya, karena tahu bahwa ada potensi setelah beberapa tahun pemilu kita ini kelihatannya seperti itu polanya terus-menerus sehingga mereka berusaha untuk mencari siapa yang bisa ini gitu ya diambil amplopnya ini. Nah, yang berikutnya yang terakhir saya sebut ini ya, bahwa ada usaha di dalam membagi, satu keluarga itu membagi suara berdasarkan uang yang mereka terima dari sejumlah kandidat. Nah, kalau yang di sini itu faktornya itu terpaksa mereka menyusun seperti apa ya? Apa yang menjadi dasar untuk kita memberikan suara kepada seseorang. Kalau sama-sama uangnya, dia satu kampung pun yang menolak uang itu. Jadi walaupun mereka sudah ada niat bahwa tidak akan memilih, tetap uang itu diterima. Makanya ini banyak orang kecewa. Ya, artinya karena dia sebutnya tadi sedekah. Sedekah tadi karena bahasa sedekah itu lah ya mereka semuanya diterima saja, namanya sedekah. Dan jika tidak ada perjanjian di atas materai bahwa harus memilih itu. Ini yang menarik. Jadi saya mana tadi ada yang teman saya. Nah di sini ya saya menyebutnya begini nih. Jadi ternyata mereka ini relasinya itu sudah dibangun dari awal. Yang pertama itu seperti pembayaran awal. Pembayaran awal itu seperti kalau bahasa kita ini panjar. Jauh-jauh sebelum pemilu mereka datangi dulu. Nah, dipanjar dulu, kasih uang dulu. Nah, lama-lama kemudian datangi lagi. Bisa kasih uang lagi tambahan, bisa juga berupa barang-barang. Ya mungkin berharga gitu ya. Ini pada saat-saat kampanye ini sudah banyak yang seperti ini. Nah, jadi dia ini yang membuat para politisi terlalu banyak dana yang dikeluarkan karena harus dipelihara minimal 3 kali masuk ke dusun-dusun atau ke desa-desa. Nah, kemudian yang lain lagi pada saat terakhir lebih banyak yang berupa janji-janji pelayanan, tapi tetap juga ada uang, tapi lebih utama ini ya mungkin jaminan kesempatan ya, opportunity untuk bekerja gitu ya. Itu jadi ada tambahan bahwa dia selain kasih orang, dikasih uang, dikasih juga ini. Jadi ini harus lengkap ini kalau dapat peluang ini. Jadi kalau hanya salah satu atau hanya satu kali datang, kecil kemungkinan ini. Apalagi kalau terlalu jauh sebelum hari H baru datang, itu sudah dilupakan orang. Jadi ini harus lebih dekat kepada hari H dan harus lebih tinggi nilai uangnya. Nah inilah yang banyak membuat bangkrut di kalangan bawah ini. Karena yang bermain ini lebih banyak pada calon-calon pada tingkat kabupaten. Kalau tingkat provinsi itu mereka mainnya itu memperalat caleg-caleg yang dibawa dengan sistem tandem itu. Nah, itu yang menarik. Jadi saya lihat lebih parah ini kalau tingkat DPRD tingkat bawah ini yang saya temui ya. Saya tidak tahu kalau ya mungkin bapak-bapak ini. Mungkin saya kira itu aja yang saya sampaikan karena waktu kita terbatas. Ini mungkin untuk langkah awal karena penelitian saya ini sifatnya berkesinambungan sudah ada penelitian dulu pada tingkat lebih tinggi. Mungkin itu dulu Mbak Erza ya, saya mohon maaf karena ada kekurangan, karena waktunya terbatas, kita harus menghargai teman-teman yang juga sudah siap. Terima kasih, mohon maaf, terima kasih untuk semuanya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Mr. Ridah Taqwa, for the very interesting discussion. One point that I note, I noted 3 points there. The first is that there's no guarantee that the practice of patronage politics correlates to the electability of legislative candidates. And actually, newer candidates tends to be more aggressive than incumbent ones. And also, there's also a shift in the use of success teams from previously being the candidate himself or herself who actually provides the money to voters. So I think this is going to be an interesting discussion during the question and answer session. So for the audience, if you already have several questions in mind, you can write it down and then we'll go to the questions later on. For the next speaker, we're going to move a little bit to the structure or the social structure. We have a speaker, Ayu Kusumastuti, who I believe currently is a PhD student at the University of Leeds. And she will be presenting her paper on the inquiry of structural inequality, the number of issues voiced by Indonesian migrant workers in host communities. So basically, the discussion aims to calculate the average of recorded complaints from migrant workers who are headed to host nations between July and August 2020. So to Ms. Ayu Kusumastuti, the time is yours.
Today, I would like to present my research project. So my name is Ayu, and I am lecturer and researcher at Department of Sociology. And right now, I'm first year postgraduate researcher or PhD student at University of Leeds School of Sociology and Social Policy. Actually, I am the junior of Bu Erza. Bu Erza has been graduated in the same faculty with me, but I'm just starting my PhD in this month. So my talk is about migrant worker, inquiry of structural inequality, the number of issues voiced by Indonesian migrant worker in host community. So my talk will be divided in a 6 section. First, introduction, research question, method, result, discussion, and conclusion. We move to the introduction. We see that the migrant experience is influenced by the process of migration to the other country. As we can see that so many Indonesian migrant workers who work in overseas, especially serve as domestic migrant workers to Southeast to East Asia, to Middle East, and of this migration. Now in this talk, I would like to see the drawback or the disadvantages from their migration to the overseas. Indonesia government has vision of migrant labor recorded from Indonesia of migrant worker population to of recorded complaint recorded in a database. To point, the first, what is the average recorded complaint of Indonesian migrant worker, and the second, why are there numerous complaints by workers in host communities? For this second research question, I would like to he is a structuralist scholar, and this notion about structural inequality, I see it is really appropriate to see about the situation on our migrant worker. So I take a look for the Goddard Journal for the Political Economy of Control. So actually it is an organizational theory of structural inequality. And the method, I took my data from Indonesian Migrant Worker Protection Agency data, and I used quantitative descriptive to calculate the average of recorded complaint from July to August. Why I picked this 3 months, I think because it is the newest data from Indonesian government, and I think it is good to see how the recent condition of migrant worker in overseas. I took 5 countries to make some comparison and to calculate the average in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, and Saudi Arabia. Then after I get the data, the average, I try to make interpretation from my data. My interpretation will be conducted by the knowledge structural inequality. The result, as we can see, this is the result from in August. We can see that Malaysia get the highest number and the less number in the Singapore. And I made some average calculation, average number of complaints by Indonesian migrant worker from July to August. We can see about 5.00, and also Malaysia earned the highest number, about 30.50. So I think it is really good result to see that the comparison between the countries, and you can see that Malaysia get the highest number by the country who get a lot of numerous complaint from Indonesian migrant worker. So what actually the problem of migrant worker? When I see the data and information from Indonesian Migrant Worker Protection Agency in August 2020, the highest problem is about this one, desiring to return to their home country. So actually our Indonesian migrant worker not really want to work in overseas. If there is any occupation or any job in a home country, they actually want to work in Indonesia instead of in Malaysia, Hong Kong, and etc. So they really want to return to their home country. So that is the problem of migrant worker in overseas. The other is for the death, sickness, and the wage is not paid. Next, this is discussion about the result, so about the structuralist analysis. So the concept of inequality structural can provide a viewpoint on investigating the reason why migrant workers face inequality in their destination country. As the State Goddard in 1993, he said about inequality challenge that can be explained in a three cases. The first, labor market is not always competitive perfectly. There is a power and conflict in the process of wage determination. And the third, structuralists provide an improved account of inequality. So this key concept can explain why there is a sort of problem of Indonesian migrant workers who work in overseas, and there are numerous recorded complaints reported by Indonesian migrant worker, because in the labor market, the relation between employee and employer is not simple. There is a power, there is a conflict, and also we know that labor market is not always competitive. Labor market is not only is influenced by supply and demand, but is beyond of that. So that's why we can see that a lot of complaint, a lot of problem that happen in the relation between employee and employer. And also this explains about structural inequality in labor market. So actually why there is inequality in labor market, because of also this three case factor. There is a social control from managerial to the employee that affect the employment relation. There is a worker resources. Actually, worker is active subject. If there is inequality, there is something problem in a working place, they are simply reporting to the agency. Okay, 3 menit. And then about the wage efficiency, yeah, sometimes managerial or employer is trying to believe that worker have to, so they can get a reward, but they didn't have any employee there is a jealously, and say that this is not fair or etc. Will competitive also with the employee. All right, so this is the conclusion. We can see that committed by Indonesian migrant worker in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, Arabia, 0.88, 5, 30, 20.88, and we can see that Singapore had the fewest complaint for Indonesian migrant worker, and Malaysia received the most. While there are numerous complaints from Indonesian migrant worker, we can see from the structuralist inequality view, because there is a power, conflict, social control, the agency of worker, and institutional labor market. So these variables can affect why there are some complaint or some feedback, bad feedback from
So here here we only one presenting. So it will be Tini Harahap from Universitas Sumatera Utara, who will be presenting her paper on how to get daily capital gain for Society 5.0. Telecommunication 5.0 about the pandemic, using the day trade strategy and the stochastic oscillator as a simple method. This sounds really interesting. So Ms. Kartini, the time is now yours.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Elza. Thank you, Ms. Elza, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This title for our article, How to Get Daily Capital Gain for Society 5.0, case study telecommunication industry sector stocks. For background about Society 5.0, super smart society, as a result of the development of the Industrial Revolution 4.0. Society 5.0 focus on utilizing digital technology, artificial intelligence, etc. With in dealing with challenge and problems in various aspects of people's lives. Japan is the first country in the world to declare community as Society 5.0. Things are different with Indonesia. Indonesian society cannot be called Society 5.0 because it is still in the middle stage between Revolution 3.0 and 4.0, based on statement Zulfikar 2019. But the COVID pandemic that has hit Indonesia has forced the Indonesian people to enter the Society 5.0 phase. Sucks the implementation of lockdown, large scale social restriction, the imposition of restriction on community activities that encourage people to be close to digital. This condition require the community to be able to solve various economic, COVID pandemic facing Indonesia. 3.5 million people lost their jobs and 45% of small, medium enterprise went bankrupt. This condition requires the community to be able to solve various economic problems and challenges by utilizing digital technology. Stock trading is an alternative source of income during a pandemic, based on Edika 2021 statement that stock trading can be used as a promising source of income in the midst of a pandemic and support the community to become a super smart society, or Society 5.0. which is working to generate income in facing economic challenges and problems due to the pandemic by using digital technology through virtual space and real space. But it can't be denied the IDX composite continued the decline when in March 2020, the Indonesian government announced the first case of COVID-19 in Indonesia, because investor concern over the impact of stock exchange or IDX led to high investor selling. So how to get daily capital gain for Society 5.0? The purpose of this research to give consideration and provide knowledge for Society 5.0 about how to obtain daily capital gains in the 95 trade strategy and the focus as a simple method. This in nature, the Indonesian stock, the IDX.co 2016 HOTS application. This study used secondary data, namely data on daily stock price and hourly chart per 10 minutes and the stock price movement of TLK friend data analysis. The first step to day trading or based on Aziz theory about rules is to find the right stock, namely choosing stocks that have high volume above the usual average volume. Example, TLKM, Indosat, Excel, and Smartpen are shares of the telecommunication industry on the Indonesia Stock Exchange or IDX. From this figure, we can see this figure so that on the daily basis, TLKM and friend stock tend to have volume above the average volume, while the volume ISAT or Indosat and Excel stock tends to move around their average volume. This can be seen on the blue line, which identify the volume movement of the stock. Next figure below. For this figure about weekly period from industry telecommunication, FRAM, Excel, ISAT, and TLKM about volume level is so that on the weekly basis, TLKM and FRAM stock also tend to have volume above the average volume, while the volume of ISAT and Excel tend to move around their average volume. On to chart above, it can be seen that TLKM and FRAM stock are suitable stock for day trade because these stock tend to have high stock volume above the usual average volume. Second step, based on statement Aziz, mentioned that the daily trade start in the morning and complete transaction during the day and does not trade in the afternoon and evening because volume has started to fall. We can see this figure for daily period about volume of FRAM and TLKM on the Indonesian Stock Exchange period September-November 2020. Figures show that on the daily chart, TLKM tend to have volume after or volume of morning to have frequency or trade session because the decrease. The third step, we can show procedure which stochastic oscillator. This is movement price of TLKM and investor is determining when the buy and sell stock. momentum, it can be used to schools and which have suffered some levels is believed it is believed that the price will experience an inverse change, which is bearish or the right time to sell.
Apologies. Sorry.
To sell.
Apologies, Ibu Kartini. I think the time is up, so probably we have 1 minute to conclude.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Okay. Thank you. In this paper, I saw that the consideration and provide knowledge for society 5.0 about obtain daily capital gains in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic using the day trade strategy and stochastic as a simple method case study of stock in the telecommunication industry sector. The first step to day trading is to find the right stock. TLKM and Friends stock tend to have volume above the average volume they trade from the market opening or in the morning. Completed transaction during the day reflected in the volume of TLKM shares, but not on-prem share. Stochastic indicator can be used to obtain daily capital gains at TLKM and Friends stocks. This is the result of this study to give consideration, and thank you for Ms. Elza.
Okay. Thank you very much for the enlightening presentation, Ms. Kartini. I think my main takeaway, aside from the fact that the day trading strategy and stochastic oscillator method is a useful to gain daily profits. I think my main takeaway would be if I ever decided to invest in stocks, then I should contact Ms. Kartini, I think, to get some advice on how to choose the perfect stocks to gain daily gains, I think. So I think this is also an extension for the other speakers. If you're ever interested in investing in stocks, I think Ms. Kartini here would be the perfect person to talk to. Moving on, I think I believe this would be the last speaker because I think, or I'll check again whether this first speaker is in the room already. So the next speaker, we'll be moving on a little to the social capital of family. So we have 4 authors here, Siti Nurbayani, Eli Malihah, Siti Komariah, and Firman Arif. But I think it will be Mr. Firman Arif who will be presenting from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, giving a paper entitled How to Prevent Pedophilia in the Family, Analysis of Social Capital Potential, where the aim of the study is to show that children are vulnerable to sexual violence as a result of their weak family social capital. So to Mr. Firman, the time is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Ezra. Maybe I will check first my audio. There is clean. Yeah, thank you, Ms. Ezra. I will take this time to present my article. Yeah. The title of our paper is Family as a Capital to Prevent Sexual Violence Against Children. It's absolutely made by me and the others presenter. We see the social media is one of in term can be harmful for children, because we see in social media or children using the internet had two bad thing. It had two aspect, is a good thing and a bad thing. We see the bad thing is pornographic has been particular of spread in internet. So in previous researchers show us that family need to manage their kid in their social media environment, because children who access pornographic sites are indicated to have a deviant sexual behavior because they conduct appropriate activities. In this case, we show in this research that social media or internet can be harmful. Then children can do deviant subculture. In this case, we see that pedophilia has happened from many aspects. The question from this paper is how to prevent our child from sexual abuse with strengthening families' role and status. This question is appeared by our research from 2014 until 2020. We have to protect our child from pornography by capitalize our families. Before we do the research, we see the data from Komnas Perempuan that report in 2019, this violence took the second position in domestic violence as many as 2,341, which means 21% in all of violence against women and children. And in 2020, with a 65% increase in violence against children, this become an anxious matters for all of us. And if we look back at the data on violence against children, it's so many cases indicate to become a pedophilian case. First is incest, and also sexual deviant behavior as a physical sexual behavior and physical abuse. The impact pedophilia we see in our research is PTSD, because PTSD can be happen at any moment in the future of our kid, and there is become more harmful for our children if there are consume social media or bad thing in social media. And some research in our result is show that victim can become predators. The others can provide victim become suicide and self-blaming. It's happened because our child has deep traumatic can more doing the other both of the impact of pedophilia. Our research has begun in 2014. We see an Emon case in Sukabumi has taken 100 of victims. It showed that civilization or society had no social awareness to control our kind of child and their behavior in society. In 2016, we saw again in Sukabumi, there is a victim from Emon case until they are become a predators in the same case, which means pedophilian case has been repeated. This result assume us that PTSD can be happen in pedophilian case. In 2017, in pedophilian case in Garut, there are socialized by their cousins, and this is sangat miris gitu. There are real problem in here because there's someone close to the predators. There's someone close to the child is socialize the sexual deviant behaviors. In the same year, in 2017, we see that pedophilian case is happened by their praise, who are trustworthy in civilization, in society, and in this for that case, we show many different background to show that show us pedophilia can happen in many aspects. In 2020, in same city in Sukabumi, we see that pedophilian case is happened by stranger. So in 2020, we hope can avoid. We hope can develop the family to strengthening their roles and status in society to avoid their kid from sexual abuse. Our process in research, firstly, a needed analysis through which the data obtained the field research is collected to be synthesis from various informant that I from before that say I will show you that there's many different background pedophilian case, which mean in Garut case, Sukabumi, and in Tangerang. There are many different aspect to catalyze someone become a pedophilian. Secondly, formulating a design which is based on the given data developed of the guideline, we see that more weak our families, it conduct to be need strengthful in sexual education, and beside that we need to show that there is need social awareness in public. We need social awareness in our civilization or in our social environment right now. The third is a validation process of feasibility in implementing and achieving the desired outcome. After the research stage have been achieved, there are development plans to complete the process. It was an important step because we need to evaluate our program to become a good module when we implementing this module to society. Finding and discussion about our research. Basically, we do an easy aspect in research and do development thing to the society. The goals is empowerment the society with sexual comprehensive education. We see first we see basic need of comprehensive sexual education. It's happened because the public or the society is ignorance about the important thing become know about comprehensive sexual education, and it is greatly supported by the level of education of parents. So more educated their parents, more strength their families to optimize their role and status. Second, do empowering to society by bringing expert in sexual education. We ask Tabu.id and Rutgers and MCR PKBI to solve the problem in society to but because we are realize that when we do empowerment or we do socialization to the society, we need to bring expert to show we are seriously want to solve their problem. After that, the third step is evaluating our program. this step is to complete our program and show how impact our program to society. We see a lack of awareness has become aims through the empowering. This particular element as family awareness is need to improve and need to provide in our families right now. Basically, there is something powerful when parents had these elements to in their society. This element show from our problem, our founding in social media and our field. First, knowing the daily activities of children, then providing knowledge about personal privacy to children. It's important because many deviant, many cases of pedophilia there are happen because their child is become a followers and become friend with their predators. And knowing your child, knowing your child's friend and knowing their children peer groups and association is an important thing too, because when the parents know about their kid environment, the parents can filter the other friends who influence bad thing to our kid. 5, receiving and listening toward the children's daily complaints. It's mean family need to give trust, more talk and more teach that show there are depend on family roles and family status, and this is complete family parenting as possible. After we see a lack of social awareness, we show we provide and produce a model named as Peduli Anak Bangsa as a solve problem to make a smart family, and it will avoid sexual deviant behaviors. And in this case, the kid can avoid to become a victim of pedophilian case. First, internalization of role and status.
Apologies, Mr. Firman. Since the time is up, do you mind wrapping, providing conclusions in the last 1 minute?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry if take a long time. So the conclusion is this article underlines that it is important for families to understand a work to prevent sexual violence. Service development is carried out based on community interest in understanding comprehensive sexual education materials. Parental neglect in educating children can potentially lead to deviant subcultural values in children. Even more self-impact are the children are influenced to deviate. Maybe that's all. I'm sorry about my lack and my mistake. If you have a question, you can call me in email. Thank you for the time, and I'm sorry of the late. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Mr. Firman. I believe the presentation was enlightful for many of the audience as well. If I can sum up the presentation, I think one thing that is missing is that there needs to be a comprehensive sexual education, both at the family level and at the society level as well, and increase the family and social awareness regarding cases of sexual violence. And the paper proposes something called Model Peduli Anak Bangsa, which I think we can discuss further in the answer and question sessions. So looking at the time, I think we'd have around 20 minutes, I think, because we started a bit late. So we have around 20 to 25 minutes for question and answer session. So for the audience, please feel free to raise your hand or use the chat box feature and direct your questions to any of the speakers if you want to discuss further. Of course, I also invite the speakers as well. If you want to question one another, for example, you find the other presenters' presentation to be interesting or discuss further. So I would like to invite the audience as well. I think while waiting for the audience, I do have several questions as well. So to stimulate discussions, if it's okay. Probably I wanted to know about I'm not sure if Mr. Rido is still here. I can't see him in the participant list. Pak Rido is still here?
I think he moved to other
Panel.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay, so maybe I would start a question about the Ibu Ayu, is it okay? Just for stimulating.
Okay.
I'm actually just curious about how the complaints are recorded by the, I think you mentioned you gathered your data from, I forgot the institution, but how are the complaints recorded? Is it based on like emails, or is it based like calls or something like that? And how accurate, because I'm curious about how accurate that is. Like, I assume there should be much more complaints than that, but
Yeah.
like maybe they don't
Yeah,
have the
actually
medium to
the
actually do that.
recorded complaint has received by the Indonesian government, and it is collected by the National Agency of Indonesian Worker Protection National Agency. And the migrant worker are doing the complaint by emailing via telephone or post, mail post. So there is several ways to contact or to inform about what the complaint. And actually Indonesian government has good communication to, they open the communication for the Indonesian migrant worker who find obstacle in the overseas. So they are also have hotline via telephone. So a lot of line to be contacted if there is any problem. So there's several ways via email, telephone, hotline, and also mail post. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for the question, and also I would sorry for the answer. And once again, I would like to invite the audience. If you do have any question, feel free to raise your hand or use the chat box feature. If it's okay, I also have a question for Ibu Nazrina, because I think this is missing, because I was waiting. I think because due to the time, I didn't get to hear your suggestion for the government. Like, how would you mitigate and minimize the negative impact of Risha project, for example, so it can be replicated in other areas, for example, without having to deal with the negative consequences? Do you have any suggestions on that?
Well, my suggestion, first of all, is related to the mentality that maybe Pak Rido Taqwa already mentioned. It's like we feel, or maybe most of people feel, that vernacular housing is the downgraded by the class status. So they think that with the bamboo housing, you are poor. While it's really having the flexibility during pandemic. Of course, if we would like to propose to the government or PUPR, and also the governor of the place where the vernacular housing is really like Toraja, for instance, really nice and beautifully made, why not we just make it as a combination? So that is becoming an attraction. So that is not the clear land and then the risa, which means that people are really pushed to live in the complex like Perumnas. Not only Perumnas, even rumah the housing for the poor. Ya, so I
Rumah sangat
think
sederhana.
rumah sangat sederhana. Terima kasih Pak Rido. Ya, terima kasih Pak Rido. So I appreciate what Pak Rido already becoming a mentality. And in Bali, I think the mentality is building ruko. All over the place is a ruko, and that's really from the eye point of view is not good. Of course, vernacular housing in Bali is not like Toraja or even Barugak in Lombok Island. But why? Why can't we develop the combination that is really can make it as a tourist attraction? So it's not clearing the land and making as a rumah sangat-sangat sederhana like that. So thank you, Pak Rido, for the insight of my presentation. That's a doctorate degree dissertation, right? Who is already written, yeah, about the mentality. So that's what I am going to explain about to wrap up about the suggestion, Ibu Ersa. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the concise answer. Yes, I think it's one difficult task actually to change the mentality, especially since people think that like if you're using bamboo, then it's just for the poor, and then so we still have lots of challenges in there. Thank you very much, Ibu Nazrina. I think since Mr. Rido is already here, I have a little curiosity actually when Pak Rido mentioned that there has been a shift in the use of brokers and success teams in transferring what they call sedekah or political alms. Can I hear your thoughts about why this is the case? Like, why is there a shift? Kenapa ada pergeseran gitu dari kemudian pemanfaatan the use of success teams? Pak Rido is.
Oke. Mohon maaf nih karena ada rapat juga jadi. Saya tadi pindah ke panel 2 untuk presentasi satu judul lagi. Jadi saya jawab lagi dengan bahasa Indonesia supaya praktis. Jadi kenapa ini makin banyak bergeser? Bukan lagi kandidat yang atau mencari warga ini. Ya, mereka sudah paham ini kalau ada musim pemilu, kesempatan bagi mereka warga-warga desa gitu. Jadi saya kira itu dari sisi momentum ya, kita tidak boleh tuduh juga mereka bahwa mata duitan gitu ya. Tetapi sebagai sebuah kebutuhan orang-orang desa, ada lagi kalau saja masa pandemi pemilu berlangsung, mungkin politik uang itu akan lebih parah lagi. Jadi cenderung bahwa masyarakat desa terutama Sumatera Selatan yang penghidupannya sangat tergantung dengan pertanian, itu kurang lebih mungkin sekitar 5-7 tahun terakhir itu harga karet itu sangat menurun drastis. Jadi ekonomi juga agak berat gitu, apalagi masa pandemi ini. Itu mungkin salah satu gitu ya. Yang kedua itu karena mereka sudah sepertinya itu tidak ada semacam fatwa gitu ya dari ulama lokal bahwa itu haram. Saya lihat kan orang-orang yang ada di kawasan situ kan banyak pondok pesantren, anak-anak mereka. Nah, tapi tidak semua ya. Saya memaaf itu ada politisi yang terpilih dari PKS itu benar dia tidak melakukan politik uang. Tapi karena PKS itu basisnya kader, dia masih konsisten, dia dapat kursi 1. Sebelum-sebelumnya juga tidak dapat kursi. Nah, ada anggota DPRD, ketua DPRD malah dari Golkar, yang pada periode sebelumnya dia terpilih dan menjadi ketua DPRD, pada 2019 itu tidak terpilih. Dan dia mengaku mengeluarkan uang juga sebanyak itu. Nah, jadi ada sepertinya ada sudah kecenderungan untuk tidak saling percaya ini antara masyarakat dengan politisi gitu ya. Mereka sudah mudah beralih ke pilihan lain. Sudah tidak ada istilahnya ideologi. Kalau kerabat itu masih ada. Tapi kalau ideologi itu semakin kurang ya, atau nilai-nilai demokrasi yang diperjuangkan oleh partainya itu sudah ada jaringan. Ini sepertinya partai itu tidak semakin penting lagi. Yang perlu itu personal. Jadi siapapun partainya, kalau personalnya dia cocok dia pilih. Jadi mungkin berubah ya. Masa ketika kontestasi kan saya sebut di pengantar itu introduction-nya itu kan kontestasi itu terutama berubah ketika sistem proporsional tertutup menjadi terbuka. Wah, itu yang menjadi penyebab utama. Nah, saya kira itu. Jadi ada faktor kebutuhan, ada faktor sistem, dan juga faktor-faktor ekonomi yang lain gitu ya. Jadi mereka sudah saling paham gitu ya. Mungkin ini kalau tidak dirubah ini sebetulnya gawat menurut saya ini pemilu kita dengan sistem sekarang. Menurut saya ini sangat gawat. Ke depan tuh tidak ada kualitasnya lagi. Tidak ada kualitasnya lagi. Itu pikiran saya ya. Saya yang menurut saya temu ini. Sepertinya sudah nilai-nilai demokrasi itu tidak ada artinya. Itu semuanya adalah sebuah prosedur untuk siapa yang menjadi elit, siapa yang kalah dan seterusnya. Mungkin itu aja jawaban saya. Sederhana tapi masih perlu digali tuh. Masih perlu digali ya. Itu Mbak saya. Silakan. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih banyak Pak Rido.
Ya, ya.
So apparently I've just been told by the committee that we only have 2 minutes left in the breakout rooms. So we should end it at 15:15. So we have 2 minutes left. If you still have any questions or would like to make any
question.
Okay.
Bu Erza. Yeah, I have a question for Bu Kartini. Bu Kartini, I think it's really good to see that about the stock daily capital gain and the method of stochastic oscillator. Yeah, I think it's new for me. Can you explain in detail what is stochastic oscillator? Is it like software, or is it like methodology, research methodology, or what? And you can explain in detail about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Ayu. Tapi atau mungkin bisa kita komunikasi by telepon WA gitu ya, karena cukup panjang sekali ya untuk penjelasannya ya. Sementara kita memang sesinya juga di sini sesi terbatas gitu. Ini saya ketikkan saja nomor WA saya ya, Miss Ayu. Nanti silakan aja kita WA-an. Oke, thank you Miss Ayu atas ketertarikannya ya untuk di sini. Jadi memang agak beda sedikit dengan teman-teman yang lain gitu kan. Teman-teman yang lain itu fokusnya murni di society. Kalau di sini combine ya bisnis, karena memang juga di kita juga udah memperdalam itu ada namanya sosiologi industri. Ya. Oke, Miss Ayu, saya ketik di chat. Thank you, Miss Erza.
Siap.
Oke. Terima kasih banyak, Ibu Kartini. Saya juga kalau butuh saran mungkin saya bisa kontak Ibu Kartini, izin kalau mau main saham mungkin. Okay, so I think given our very limited time, please allow me to wrap up our discussion for today. Seeing that we have quite a wide range of paper presentations, I think one common thread that I can actually highlight from the overall presentation is that how shocks and transformations, either social or political, through COVID-19, disaster, sexual violence, or political transformations, has changed how people behave and how people cope with these external shocks and these transformations. We notice about how the use of digitalization, for example, the use of a stochastic oscillator, and then the use of social capital, the use of local wisdom such as Risha and other forms of local wisdom are being used by societies and peoples to cope with these external shocks and then transformations as well. So for my last word, I think we are very likely to see further changes in the future. So I think all of our research here is going to have a very bright future where we can actually progress it further and contribute a lot to the society and the political landscape, not just Indonesia, but I think also globally as well. So please join me to give a round of applause to all the presenters. I think it's been a very good discussion, and I felt really honored to be moderating the session. I hope we can still keep in contact because I think maybe, for example, I'm going to need some suggestions on if I want to like Risha or something, or like invest in tradings or some elections, for example. So I think we can all share our numbers, or we can share our email details, and then we can keep in contact as well. So Thank you very much again for all the things. I enjoyed being your moderator, and I wish you all the best for your career and for your family as well. Okay. That's all for me now, and then I'm going back to the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Elza.
and good afternoon.
Ya,
Semuanya.
sampai jumpa lagi di tempat
Jumpa
lain ya.
lagi, Pak
Ya,
Ridho.
Pak.
Makasih.
Yuk next time nih.
See.
Bu Nasrina udah lama udah jumpa nih, waduh. Nanti agenda tahun depan lagi ya, Bu ya.
Insya Allah, Pak.
Agenda
Assalamualaikum
aktif.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Makasih, Pak
Ya,
Ridho.
Haris.
Ridho.
Assalamualaikum ya.
Ya.
Pamit semua nih. Saya
Ya.
pindah dulu ke panel 2 ini masih ada
Silakan, Pak.
kewajiban di sana nih. Ya, ya.